A lot of people say the 750 is not designed for automation. They've got a lot of reliability problems trying to automate the press. And I think the major reason is that in station 1, in the inherent design, it only has 5 stations. So it has to combine the case feed with station 1, which a lot of people use it to size and deprime at the same time. The problem is if you don't set up these cam and these feed exactly correct, you may have a case that's not in all the way. All right, so here, look at that. It may feed it like that, and what happens when you run it? You stop the press, okay? So here's my solution, and I think I've got it down pretty well, working reliably now. So first of all, I separate case prep with loading. Since I'm not pulling the handle, I can do this. I'm just sitting there watching the press, and it improves reliability by a lot. The second is I've got this die from FW Arms, and the difference is that it has a centering sleeve here. See if I can show you, right? So it has this sleeve that even if the case is slightly off, it'll push it in to the middle. So now if the case slightly off, a traditional die, a normal design would have gotten stuck, but this die is fine. In my experience, it completely solves the problem at station 1 for me. The other thing I did for reliable operation in station 1 is this unique tech bearing camming pin. So there's a bearing down here. This is my non-automated 750 with the original camming pin. And for whatever reason, you can see there's still a little bit of play. This is already clamped down hard, but there's still a little play. With this, there's no play at all. So I think that little bit of difference really make station 1 a lot more reliable. Pretty good upgrade for $20. Station 2, I have to swageit. So basically a swaging rod and instead of the priming station, and as it runs through, it will swage. The other thing with the swageit is that Mark 7 is designed for it. It allows you to adjust the primer depth, bottom trim. So like right now, I just have it set at 0 because I'm just making a demonstration. But I have got all these different settings that I have got working pretty well. So when I load a certain caliber, I'll just set it correctly. This primer depth allows you to set how deep the swaging rod goes in. Once you get it, you'll get a sense as to what works with your press, and you'll get the settings that you like. A lot of concern with swageit is as it comes up, the swageit voids your warranty, and a lot of people say, it's because forces are being applied in places where it's not designed for. And I guess when you have a case that comes in and you swageit, it can apply upward forces. It may damage the shell plate. It may damage the bolt or whatever. Forces are not designed where they are. In my experience of preparing around 30,000 cases so far, the point of failure is actually going to be at the brass. So here's one where it's a very tough crimp, but instead of damaging the shell plate, the brass just fails, and the thing just kind of, once the swageit comes up, hits a hard crimp, the whole thing just flies off. And the point of failure is on the brass. You can see kind of both sides flattened. So again, about 30,000 cases prepped, and it failed at the brass. So I'm pretty comfortable with using the swageit, but of course your experience may vary. So here's station 3. It's just a bullet puller, which I'm just it doesn't do anything in the case prep toolhead. I just put it on this toolhead when I need to pull bullets, and I'm too lazy to remove it. Station 4 is my sizing die. So basically what I do, there are basically 3 functional stations in the case prep toolhead. Station 1 decap, Station 2 swage, and Station 4 sizes. And so I can run this at 800 rounds an hour. I get all my brass prepped while I sit and watch. And it's very reliable. So the other reliability tip is the primer punch. As you automate the press, you cycle them a lot more, so this can get out of spec. And you end up with a primer that's seated too high. So look at the left one, is seated a bit too high compared to the right one, which is correct. And I did get some failure to fire in my limited gun. So what you do is you basically take this out and you reset the whole thing. So let me show you. So here's the primer punch disassembled, and you can see this bolt here, even though if it's screwed in, there's just a little bit of play. And just that little bit of play could be enough to make your primer seating a little bit out of spec. So whenever you see a high primer or it's not seated in completely, just reset this whole thing. Take it apart, put it back together, and in my experience, that solves the problem. So in Station 4, I run the bullet feeder, and the only tip I have here is really to put in something that creates a downward force, a straight downward force. So it gives you reliable bullet feeding. If you don't have this, in my experience, you might get a double feed every now and then. So in Station 5, I run the seating crimp die. In my research, I found the DAA die made by Lee and the Hornady die. I prefer the Hornady because of several reasons. One is it has a sleeve that helps center the bullet, and I think it results in a bit of a better operation, more reliable operation. The second is you can adjust the crimp with this and then the seating with this. You don't have to adjust the height of the die to get the crimp. So for my 9mm setup, I had the DAA, and in order to adjust the crimp, you have to move the whole die up, and here's the seating. With the Hornady, you just undo this one here. This is a lock ring for the crimp. You can turn this to adjust the crimp up or down, and this is separate seating. So just a little bit more convenient for initial setup. In my experience with this die, I was able to get OAL variance of maybe 0.003, which is pretty good for an automated press, I think, that combines seat and crimp. Station 1 is, again, it had historically cost me the most problems. So having this die with the centering sleeve helps a lot. The other is lots of grease. All right, so I've got grease here. I've got grease on the surface. I've also got grease underneath this plate and this rail. Just grease this whole thing, and it will really, really help. The point of reliability is the ring indexer here. So the most often failure is when you have a primer that's not seated fully in. And when this ring index, or when this plate tries to turn, it will, because of the high primer, it will create a lot of resistance when turning. When you pull the handle yourself, you will have to feel, but when you use a powerful motor like this, it can break. And a lot of times it breaks right here, right? So in my experience, it breaks maybe every, 4,000 to 5,000 rounds, either case prep or rounds prepared. And so I have got 10 of these just ready to go. It's a part that I've accepted that will break. And when it breaks, it's time to do maintenance. Clean the press, re-grease everything, and it's good to go again. The other thing that I think really helps is running a clamp tool head. So this is the normal Dillon tool head. You know, you just kind of use this pin. All my automated press tool heads are changed to a clamp tool head, so you can see the coil that's tapped into the hole, and then you clamp it down with these bolts. Unitech makes these kits for around $30-40, and in my experience, those have been really helpful.